I stared out the train window as familiar landscapes rushed by, signaling my approach to my hometown. My name is Robin, and I was heading home for Christmas break during my senior year of college. The rhythmic clacking of the train tracks had become almost meditative during the 4-hour journey, giving me plenty of time to think about the upcoming holidays. I attended Westlake College in the neighboring state on a full scholarship. My parents had made it clear from the beginning that they wouldn't be supporting me financially through college. "Your sister Melissa is getting married soon, and we need to save for that," my mom had explained when I got my acceptance letter. I understood their decision, at least I tried to, but it still hurt, even though I never let them see it. To make ends meet, I worked part-time at the Daily Grind, a coffee shop near campus. The pay wasn't great, but it gave me enough spending money for essentials and the occasional treat. I'd been saving up for months to buy Christmas gifts for my family this year. I wanted to show them I was doing fine on my own. But 2 weeks before Christmas, disaster struck. My laptop, the one I relied on for all my coursework and research papers, finally died after years of loyal service. I'd been nursing it along for months, but this time, no amount of troubleshooting could revive it. With final papers due and my senior thesis looming after the break, I had no choice but to spend nearly all of my saved money on a new one. Left with barely enough for train fare home and about $50 to spare, I made a last-minute decision at the convenience store near the station. 3 lottery tickets, one each for Mom, Dad, and Melissa. It wasn't much, but it was literally all I could afford. I hauled my suitcase down from the overhead rack and shuffled toward the exit. The station was decorated with garlands and twinkling lights, Christmas music playing softly overhead. Despite my financial woes, I felt a small flutter of excitement. It was Christmas, after all, and I hadn't seen my family in months. No one was waiting for me at the station. I hadn't expected anyone to be, honestly. When I finally arrived at my childhood home, I let myself in quietly. The house was warm and smelled like pine from the Christmas tree in the living room, mixed with something savory from the kitchen. "Hello, I'm home," I called out, dragging my suitcase through the front door. In here, my mother's voice came from the dining room. I found them all gathered around the dining table, which was covered with fabric swatches, flower catalogs, and what looked like seating charts. My father was frowning at his laptop while my mother and Melissa huddled together over a wedding magazine. "Hi everyone," I said, hovering in the doorway. Dad glanced up briefly, "Hey, kiddo," then immediately back to his screen. Mom gave me a distracted wave, "There's leftovers in the fridge if you're hungry." Melissa barely looked up. "This is a disaster," she moaned, completely ignoring my presence. Jason was supposed to be back from his business trip by now to help with all this, but his flight from Tokyo got delayed again. "I'm sure he'll be back soon," Mom soothed, patting her hand. I stood there awkwardly for another moment before realizing that was all the welcome I was going to get. No hugs, no "how have you been?" No questions about school or my life or anything. "I'll just take my stuff upstairs," I said, though I wasn't sure anyone was listening. My room looked exactly as I'd left it at the end of summer, neat, impersonal, and slightly dusty. Unlike Melissa's room, which Mom kept pristine even though my sister had moved out 3 years ago, mine had the feeling of a guest room that happened to contain some of my old belongings. I unpacked slowly, listening to the muffled sounds of conversation downstairs. When I finished, I sat on the edge of my bed and took out the 3 lottery tickets from my wallet, looking at them with a mixture of embarrassment and resignation. They really were all I had to give. Christmas Eve arrived with a flurry of activity. Mom spent the day cooking, Dad was tasked with last-minute grocery runs, and Melissa alternated between checking her phone for updates from Jason and complaining loudly about his absence. He promised he'd be back for Christmas, she whined for possibly the 20th time as I helped Mom in the kitchen. What kind of fiancé misses Christmas with his future in-laws? One whose flight got cancelled due to weather, I pointed out reasonably, it's not like he planned it. She shot me a venomous look, "You wouldn't understand. You've never even had a serious boyfriend." I bit my tongue and focused on mashing the potatoes, reminding myself that it was just a few more days before I could return to my dorm room and the blessed peace of campus during winter break. As evening approached, we all changed into nicer clothes for dinner. I put on a simple green dress I'd found on clearance last year, while Melissa emerged in a designer outfit that probably cost more than 3 months of my coffee shop wages. The Christmas Eve dinner was admittedly delicious. Mom had outdone herself with a roast, all the trimmings, and her famous apple pie for dessert. For a little while, as we ate and Dad told his old workplace stories, it almost felt normal. Almost felt like I belonged. "Let's open presents," Mom announced after we finished dessert. Dad went to fetch the gifts from under the tree while Melissa pulled out her smartphone. "I'm recording this for Jason," she explained. "He wanted to see what he's missing." My stomach nodded as Dad handed out the beautifully wrapped packages. I had nothing to put under the tree except those lottery tickets, still tucked away in my purse. "You first, Robin," Dad said, handing me a small, lightweight package wrapped in shiny silver paper. I carefully unwrapped it to find a simple beige sweater. The price tag was still partially attached, showing it had been marked down 70% in a post-Thanksgiving sale. Melissa snickered, still filming. "Now open mine." Her gift was a coffee mug that said "World's Okayest Sister." I managed another smile. "Thanks, Mel." Then came the moment I'd been dreading. All eyes turned to me. Do you have anything for us, Robin?" Mom asked, her tone making it clear she expected something substantial. I swallowed hard and reached for my purse. "I do, but it's not much. I had to buy a new laptop right before break because my old one died, and it took almost all my savings." Melissa rolled her eyes dramatically, making sure the camera caught her reaction. I cleared my throat and pulled out the small envelope containing the tickets. "These are lottery tickets, one for each of you. I know it's not much, but maybe you'll get lucky." My voice sounded small even to my own ears. Dad took the envelope and peered inside with a frown. Mom's smile faltered, then disappeared entirely. "Lottery tickets?" Melissa's voice dripped with contempt as she zoomed in with her phone. "God, what a beggar gift. This is so going on my story later." Mom didn't even look at the tickets. She just handed the envelope to Melissa with a disappointed headshake. "Speaking of gifts," Dad said loudly, clearly eager to move past my pathetic offering, "we have something special for you, Melissa." Mom pulled out a small box wrapped in gold paper with an elaborate bow. Melissa lowered her phone just enough to accept it, then resumed filming as she opened it. Inside was a key ring with a single key attached. "What's this?" she asked. Mom and Dad exchanged excited glances. "It's the key to the Maple Street apartment," Dad announced proudly. "We've decided to give it to you and Jason as a wedding present." The Maple Street apartment was a property my parents had owned and rented out for years. It was in an upscale neighborhood and worth at least $300,000. Melissa launched herself at our parents, hugging them frantically while still somehow keeping her phone recording. "I can't believe it, I'm the daughter of the most generous parents ever. This is the best Christmas gift in the history of gifts." I sat frozen. The contrast couldn't have been more stark, a $300,000 apartment versus my sweater. After the excitement died down, Dad picked up the lottery tickets from where Melissa had tossed them on the coffee table. "Here," he said, holding them out to me. "We don't want these, you might as well keep them." Melissa snorted, still filming everything. "This is gold, I'm definitely posting this later. Sister gives lottery tickets for Christmas, gets owned by parents, it'll be a hit." I took the tickets with trembling hands. Something inside me broke at that moment. I'd spent months working extra shifts to save up for gifts, only to have my emergency expense thrown in my face. I'd been treated like an afterthought since the moment I arrived, and now this humiliation, all captured on Melissa's phone for her social media followers to laugh at. "Excuse me," I whispered, rising from my seat. No one protested as I walked upstairs to my room. I didn't cry, I was beyond tears. Instead, I methodically packed my suitcase, gathering every personal item I had in the house. When I came back downstairs with my suitcase, my family was in the living room, still fawning over Melissa's new apartment key. They barely glanced my way as I headed for the door. "I'm leaving," I announced. Melissa was typing on her phone, probably already crafting her social media post. She didn't even look up. "Don't forget to close the door all the way when you leave, it sticks sometimes." I stared at them, these people who shared my blood but had never really shared my life. "Merry Christmas," I said quietly, then turned and walked out. "Make sure you slam it," Melissa called after me, her voice brimming with laughter. I did, but not because she told me to. The cold December air hit my face as I walked down the driveway, suitcase in tow. I had nowhere to go, no car, and barely any money. But I kept walking anyway, turning left down the street toward my Aunt Kate's house. Aunt Kate was my father's sister, and the black sheep of the family according to my parents. She'd never married, worked as an art teacher at the local high school, and lived in a small but cozy house a few blocks away. We'd always gotten along well, though I rarely saw her thanks to my parents' disapproval of her alternative lifestyle. I hesitated on her doorstep before ringing the bell. The door swung open to reveal Aunt Kate in a bright red sweater covered in sequined reindeer. Christmas music and the smell of mulled wine wafted out from behind her. "Robin," she exclaimed, genuinely happy to see me. Then she noticed my suitcase and her smile faded to concern. "What's wrong, honey?" "Can I stay with you for a few days?" I asked, my voice finally breaking. "I can't be at that house anymore." Without hesitation, she pulled me into a warm hug. "Of course you can, comin' out of the cold." Christmas with Aunt Kate was nothing like the sterile, performance-driven holidays at my parents' house. Her small gathering included 2 colleagues from the high school and a neighbor with his young daughter. Nobody filmed anything, nobody competed for attention, and most importantly, nobody made me feel worthless. I returned to campus after New Year's without speaking to my parents or Melissa. They hadn't called or texted to check if I was okay, which pretty much confirmed everything I already knew about where I stood in the family hierarchy. Back at college, I threw myself into my final semester of classes and continued my shifts at the daily grind. The routine helped push the Christmas disaster to the back of my mind. Then, about 2 weeks after returning to campus, I was cleaning out my wallet when I found the lottery tickets. "Might as well check these," I muttered to myself, pulling up the lottery website on my new laptop. I entered the numbers from the first ticket, nothing. Second ticket, nothing. Third ticket, I typed in the numbers mechanically. The screen flashed, "Congratulations, you are a winner." I blinked, sure I was seeing things. But the message remained, along with an instruction to contact the lottery office immediately. "This can't be right," I whispered, checking the numbers again. Every single one matched. I stared at my screen in shock. $5 million. The ticket I'd bought for my father, the one he'd rejected and handed back to me with contempt, was worth $5 million. My first instinct was to scream, to call someone, to celebrate. But then caution kicked in. I'd read enough stories about lottery winners whose lives were ruined by sudden wealth. And I knew exactly what would happen if my family found out. Instead of screaming, I took a deep breath and started researching what to do next. The lottery website had information for winners, including a recommendation to sign the back of the ticket immediately and store it somewhere safe. The next day, I went to a bank and rented a safe deposit box, securing the winning ticket inside. Then I continued my research, reading everything I could find about handling lottery winnings responsibly. I discovered that many winners hired financial advisors specialized in sudden wealth. One name kept coming up in positive reviews, Elaine Mercer, a financial consultant who had helped several lottery winners manage their newfound fortune. After a week of contemplation, I called her office and made an appointment, explaining my situation over a secure line. "First rule of winning the lottery," she said after we'd introduced ourselves, "tell as few people as possible for as long as possible." "I haven't told anyone," I confirmed, "not even my aunt, who's the only family member I actually like." "Good, now, let's talk about claiming your prize." Elaine explained the process. I could remain anonymous in my state if I claimed through a trust. The lump sum option would be about 60% of the jackpot, and then taxes would take another chunk. "You'll end up with about $1.8 million after everything," she calculated. Still a life-changing amount, but not the full $5 million advertised. "That's fine," I said, still unable to wrap my mind around such figures. We spent the next 2 hours discussing my options. In the end, I decided to hire Elaine officially as my financial advisor. She helped me set up a trust, find a lawyer to handle the claim, and create a preliminary financial plan. Don't make any huge lifestyle changes immediately, she cautioned as our meeting ended. Finish your degree. Keep your job for now if you want to. Take time to adjust to the idea before making major decisions. It was good advice, and I took it. The claiming process took several weeks, during which I continued my normal routine. I still worked at the coffee shop, though I reduced my hours to focus on my senior thesis. No one, not even my closest friends, knew that I was about to become a millionaire. Meanwhile, Melissa had indeed posted the video from Christmas. I discovered it while scrolling through Instagram one evening. There I was, awkwardly presenting my beggar gifts, as Melissa had captioned it. The comments were brutal. "Oh my God, what a cheapskate, lottery tickets for Christmas? If my sister gave me that, I'd disown her. Robin, more like robbing her family of a decent gift." My first impulse was to defend myself, to explain about the laptop and my limited finances. But what was the point? These were Melissa's friends, people who'd never met me and had already decided I was some kind of villain. I closed the app without commenting and went back to my thesis. Let them think what they wanted. I knew the truth, and soon, I'd have the means to create the life I deserved, far away from their petty judgments. In late February, the money was finally transferred to my account. I checked the balance online repeatedly throughout that day, still not quite believing it was real. As Elaine had advised, I made no immediate changes. I finished the semester strong, continued working reduced hours at the coffee shop, and quietly researched real estate in the area. I'd grown to love the college town where I'd spent the last 4 years and decided I wanted to stay after graduation. The only concrete decision I made was to invest 2/3 of the money according to Elaine's recommendations, a diverse portfolio designed to generate long-term sustainable income. The remaining third would be for immediate needs, a house, some travel, and a comfortable cushion for daily expenses while I figured out what I wanted to do with my life. March arrived, bringing with it my final midterms and an unexpected email from my mother. "Your father and I are too busy with Melissa's wedding preparations to attend your graduation in May. I'm sure you understand." I did understand, all too well. Some things never changed. Graduation day arrived under clear blue skies. The ceremony itself passed in a blur of speeches and name-calling. When I walked across the stage to receive my diploma, I heard scattered applause from strangers. It was enough. I had done this on my own, like everything else in my college career. The following week, I met with a real estate agent. We viewed several properties before finding the one, a stunning modern house on 3 acres just outside town. 4 bedrooms, a gourmet kitchen, a home office overlooking a small pond, and best of all, complete privacy. It's listed at $875,000, the agent said, watching my reaction carefully. I nodded, "I'll take it." 2 weeks later, I signed the closing papers. That same afternoon, I booked a 2-week trip to the Maldives, something I'd dreamed about since seeing a travel documentary in high school. Life was changing rapidly, but I felt strangely grounded. Perhaps because I'd spent so many years being practical, learning to budget and plan, the sudden wealth didn't send me into a frenzy of pointless spending. The house and vacation were my only major purchases. Everything else went into investments or savings, just as Elaine had recommended. I hadn't spoken to my family since Christmas, though Aunt Kate occasionally sent texts to check in. I'd told her I was staying in town after graduation and had found a nice rental, but nothing about my lottery win or the house purchase. 3 days before my scheduled departure to the Maldives, my phone lit up with a video call request from Melissa. I almost declined it out of habit, but curiosity won out. I accepted the call. Melissa's face appeared, with our parents visible in the background, arguing about something as usual. "Robin," she said, her voice dripping with fake sweetness, "I've been thinking about the wedding, and I've decided not to invite you after all. I mean, you'd probably just bring something stupid again as a gift, and it would be so awkward for everyone." In the background, our parents paused their argument to nod in agreement. "That's fine," I replied calmly. I wasn't planning to attend anyway. Her eyes narrowed, she looked genuinely confused by my lack of distress. That's when she seemed to finally notice my surroundings, the high ceilings, the modern artwork on the walls behind me, the overall air of luxury that my new home exuded. "Where are you?" she demanded. "That doesn't look like your crappy dorm room." "This is my house. I bought it after graduation." There was a moment of stunned silence, then my parents appeared, pushing into frame beside Melissa. "With what money?" my mother demanded. "You work in a coffee shop." I smiled, the kind of satisfied smile I'd been holding back for months. "Things change." Melissa's eyes widened suddenly. "The lottery tickets," she gasped. "You won the lottery." My parents' faces transformed instantly from skepticism to shock. "That's not fair," my mother cried. "Those were meant to be our presents." "Which you didn't want," I reminded her. "You called them beggar gifts, remember?" It's all in Melissa's video. My father's face was turning an alarming shade of red. "That money should be shared with the family. We're your parents." The same parents who couldn't be bothered to come to my graduation? The same parents who gave Melissa an apartment while I got a clearance sweater? That family? "You ungrateful little," my father began, but I cut him off. "I have to go now. I have a flight to catch tomorrow." "Flight? Where are you going?" my mother demanded. "The Maldives, for a vacation." The call exploded into chaos, all three of them shouting over each other about fairness and family obligation and how I owed them. I ended the call mid-rant and blocked their numbers immediately afterward. The peace lasted exactly 2 weeks, the duration of my Maldives trip, which was every bit as magical as I'd imagined. The day after I returned, I received an email from someone claiming to be my parents' lawyer, suggesting we resolve this matter amicably. I forwarded it to Elaine, who connected me with a top-notch attorney specializing in lottery cases. We arranged a meeting with my family and their lawyer at his office. I arrived with both Elaine and my attorney, Marcus. My parents and Melissa were already there, alongside a serious man in a formal suit. "Let's cut to the chase," Marcus began after introductions. "My client has no legal obligation to share her lottery winnings with her family. Those tickets were our Christmas gifts," my father insisted. "She only had them because we rejected them." "Exactly," Marcus replied smoothly. "You rejected them, making them Ms. Wallace's property." "How much did she win?" the family lawyer asked. "The jackpot was $5 million, Marcus stated. "After taxes and fees, approximately $1.8 million. My parents and Melissa gasped in unison. "But," Marcus continued, "I believe we have further evidence of the gift transfer." He turned to me. "Ms. Wallace?" I pulled out my phone and opened Instagram, navigating to Melissa's account and the infamous Christmas video. I passed it to the family's lawyer. He watched in silence, his expression growing increasingly uncomfortable as he saw my parents explicitly rejecting the tickets and Melissa mocking my beggar gifts. When the video ended, he cleared his throat awkwardly. "Mr. and Mrs. Wallace, this complicates things. We need that money," my mother cried. "Melissa's wedding has put us in debt. We need at least $200,000 to cover the loans we took out." Without a word, I stood and walked out of the office. Behind me, I heard my mother's wails and my father's threats, but they sounded distant, like they belonged to someone else's life. I returned home and completely stopped all communication with my family. Through Aunt Kate, I learned that Melissa's wedding did take place as planned. She also told me that my parents spent the entire reception complaining to everyone about my greed and how I'd abandoned the family when they needed me most. Even though I don't need to work with my lottery winnings, I got a job at a local publishing house. I wanted something meaningful to fill my days. I never wanted to be someone who just stays at home counting money. The work is creative and fulfilling, and my colleagues have no idea about my financial situation. The lottery win didn't change who I am. It just gave me the means to build the life I always deserved, one filled with respect, purpose, and genuine connections. And as for my arrogant family, I've forgotten about them, just as they spent years forgetting about me.